into this training, quick little pitch. One of the things that's coming up that I'm super excited about is our event in September, the Home Care Champions Experience. This is the second annual. And one thing that I'm really shifting gears on what this event is about, and it really is at its core about connections and collaboration and meeting with like-minded people. And so one of our sponsors here that's about to present that I'm excited to dive in because I'll give a quick story. And this is funny because I people may not expect for me to share this, but I have been very hesitant, and Welton knows this, of talking and working with digital marketing agencies because I just find that a lot of companies love to kind of offer everything under the sun. There's no real specialization. They do things just because they can charge for things and aren't really like concerned about whether or not it works. And when I got on with Welton's team, there was like this immediate alignment and then, meeting Welton and continuing that alignment. And so I'm really excited to dive into today's training to really cover a lot of areas that I don't do, right? Services that I don't offer. And that's what I love about partnering with people that can fill the gap in things that are necessary for home care agencies. And so without further ado, um, Welton, thank you so much for being here. Take it away.
Thank you, Nick. Let me share my screen very quick here. Oops, can I have
Oh,
permission?
yep, there you go.
Good. Perfect. Can you see my screen?
It is loading. There we go. All right, we are good.
Perfect. Thank you, Nick. And thank you, everybody, for your time. And today, I really want to go over a little bit more as to what's actually working in 2025 to generate more clients and billable hours. And let me know along the way if any questions. And this is something not new to any one of you guys, right? If you guys been looking at Activate Insight's latest report, the cost to acquire a client just keeps on going up, right? Not pretty though. It just keeps on going up. It's not flattening out at all. And that's what I've been seeing as well in 2025. Things started continue to go up. And since the cost to acquire a client is so expensive, it just keeps on going up. My job today is really go over with you what's been working, what's not working, and really help you just using that betting table analogy is where to put your chips in to give you a little higher ROI. And I always say there's gonna be always gonna be some shiny metal stuff out there, which could be done a little bit later. Okay. So my job today is kind of go over a framework with you, but before I do that is I don't want folks to think that digital marketing is the holy grail. Unfortunately, it's not. For some industries, it's kind of the holy grail, but for home care agencies, it's not. 80-20 rule, 80% of leads will be coming from referral sources. So if you're thinking, let's say your year one, year two, right? Even established agency, hope, right? Still got to be doing referral marketing. Don't think you can just, right, sit behind your desk and do digital marketing without being out there knocking on doors, right, doing networking. But where digital really come in is this. It really go hand in hand. If you have very, very strong referral marketing, even families will most likely Google you, just check you out. Are you legit or not? They might go on your website, they Google you. So really, ultimately, they really go hand in hand. With that in mind is what I've been learning a lot is everyone's confused because there's so many digital marketing like strategies. Google Ads, SEO, AI is coming out these days, right? Do you do videos, which is opposite yes, right? Do you do OTT? There's so many things, just shiny metal stuff out there. So my job today is really go over what's proven to work and really help you avoid shiny object syndrome. I'm like a squirrel too, not like, but let me test out what's working, what's not working, and I'll teach it to you guys what's working. Okay. But this really very, very simple framework. It really is at the end of the day, there's really not that many strategies that's proven to work. And if we look at this framework here, what I typically like to go after first is what's called the problem aware journey. These are families who are already acknowledging they might need home care right now or down the line. So Nick, I'll play a fun game with you. Um, let's say back in the 90s, you're probably not born yet, but just pretend it's the 90s.
I was born, for the record, 91. I was a
Okay.
baby, but
Okay.
still born.
Oh gosh. Oh gosh. Okay. So let's pretend we're in the 90s. And if you have leaky roof, hopefully it's not your roof. If you have leaky roof, back in the 90s, how do homeowners find roofing companies back then?
The yellow pages.
Exactly. Phone book, right? Your problem where? You go straight to the yellow pages. Again, Nick just playing fun game with you, but there's so many listings even within the print yellow pages. Back then, how do people know which roofing company to call? There's so many of
The
them.
ones
Like
that start with A.
exactly. Right? You get it. It's like to hack the system, folks started changing your name to be A1 roofing company, right? So their listing shows up a little bit right in the front. A couple other scenarios, some do gravitate towards larger ads, right? Better ad copies, since same thing, this goes back to advertising marketing. If you have the luxury of getting a little bit larger ad placement, the ad copy is very critical. Who you are, what you do, how you're different, good call to action. Again, anything offline is really marketing is marketing. It has not changed, right? Overall. Some do gravitate towards those that they heard or seen everywhere. You always see that one roofing company in each right geography. They're just everywhere. You saw them on TV, billboards, print, they're on newspaper, they're on social media, they're everywhere. And that's typically by default, you go to them. Okay. But Nick, just for fun, giggles, like how do folks find roofing companies in 2025?
Google.
Yeah, it's just right. Again, this is not unique to roofing companies. It's by default these days, if families are mindful, they're looking for home care, they typically start their research just with Google. Okay, and I'll talk a little more when we have time to talk about AI, how things are changing. But again, by default, right now, most folks still go with a Google search, right? So again, I'll explain a lot more how Google works, right? How should you do Google Ads or not? How do you get ranked in that map section? And does SEO matter, right? And how long does it take to do SEO? But the key is these eventually traffic, whether online, offline, they all go online. When they Google your brand name, even as a referral source, they Google your brand name. Then they go on your website. And if you really think about it, if they're on your website, they're really in that evaluation stage because they don't know you. They're looking at your website, trying to look for who you are, again, who you are, what you do, how are you different. That's why, hint, hint, if you don't have videos on your website, they don't trust you. It's like, that's why Nick and I, we never knew each other back then. It's like our philosophy just totally aligned, right? It's, again, no videos, they're not going to trust you. Faces means trust. Again, I'll go over all these examples shortly. Then, ideally, the better the website and the more likely they're going to call you. But these days, most likely, they're going to check you out on these third-party review sites. Just guide them, right? Even your cost is higher, they're just going to go with a agency that has more reviews, more trustworthy, right? So if you look at this framework, it's actually that simple. I wish there's more avenues than this. If you're really going after a little bit more warm, right? They're a little bit ready. It's Google, website, and reviews. And obviously you got to know how to answer these inquiries. Then once you exhausted strategies here on down, that's when it might make sense for you to put a little bit more focus on these top of mind awareness. And this old school like me, we used to call this push marketing. You're pushing your messages out there, right? And that's where social media come into play, right? Display ads. Going old school, that's where, if you really think about old school, TV, radio, newspaper, billboards, those are really branding strategy, right? It's very different from phone book. If folks flip through the phone book, they're ready to engage with you, just like Google. These avenues, do they work? They do work. Using that roofing company, right? If you're able to have the luxury of being everywhere, more likely when they go on the phone book, they look you up. They use it more like a white page, and then they just call you. Okay. I'm not discounting folks on strategies up here. It's just I see those year ones, year twos, they tend to focus a lot of strategies up here, and it's more branding. It's a little harder to show results. So if you're looking for a little more immediate returns, is to start here on down and really make sure these are plumbed out very well, then come up here. But oddly, again, I'll explain each of these strategies shortly, is I would actually, if I were you, I would go bottom up. Bottom up, first of all, do you know how to answer these inquiries? What's your ratios for inquiries, right, to admissions, for example, right, or to assessment to admissions? Really role play, really get that down first. Focus on referral marketing, right? Then really focus on reviews. Then make sure websites really dialed in. Then it might make sense to start really spend money to drive leads, right, and do branding. So that's why I love to go bottom up a little bit more. Okay. So with this framework in mind, let's really deep dive a little more on how, right, that problem-aware journey works. First of all, let's talk about Google. Google, at the end of the day, is still king, right? You still got Bing, you got Yahoo, I love them, but realistically, Google owns about 90% of the search engine marketing, search engine, and mainly on this little tiny device. It owns 90%. Okay? So if you go on Google these days, there's really three distinct ways you can market your agency. Right at the top, these are Google ads, right? If I Google home care near me, you will typically see ads right at the top. And there's maximum of 4 ads right at the top. Once you started scrolling down, my favorite section of all is this section here, which is called local business search. What Google does is it recommends only three of the best home care agency nearby, right? 3 of the best roofing companies nearby. And how does Google know which home care agency is better? It doesn't know. It's solely based on the set algorithm, which I'll go over with you. What does Google look at? What trust signals does it look at? Okay, but again, just keep in mind, this is my favorite strategies of all because it's free. Then finally, if you continue to scroll down, you hit the section called organic search. And this SEO, whenever people talk about SEO, is really this section here, which is how highly ranked is your website. Okay, so let me really deep dive in because there's 3 sections. Which of these do you deploy? Which one of these you're going to get a little bit better results? So let's talk about Google Ads first. Again, as I keep on saying, Google Ads, it's really showing up right at the top. And we all know, and I laugh about this all the time, Google is for profit. It's not a non-profit organization. So majority of Google's revenue, about 79% of Google's revenue comes from these ads. And these are pay-per-click ads. It's only when somebody click on these ads to go on your website, that's when you pay for that click. You're not paying for the eyeballs. With this in mind is, again, I hate this, guys. I'm a digital marketer, but I hate this. Since Google wants, right, attention, if you want to be right at the top, you just have to buy your way in. And these ads are purposely right at the top. Using, Nick, you're too young for this, but using newspaper terminology, this is called above the fold before you flip it over, right? This real estate is the most
I'm offended. I know that term.
Good.
But only because of websites, because we use that same term for
Exactly.
websites above the fold, which obviously comes from
Exactly.
newspapers.
Right. Right. So again, just keep in mind, that's why I kind of want to go over should you do ads or not, right? But just keep in mind how I think about these ads is if you're more established, more home care agency, if you're established and you got a good uh, market share, how I look at this is you got to protect and defend your turf. If you don't show up here, unfortunately, you don't exist. So again, more established right agency, I would say you got to still put a little bit of funds towards the ads, so at least you show up. For those that's a little bit newer or trying to grow a little more aggressively, you got to be using these ads so that way you're right at the top then. And again, I'll go over a little bit more how these ads work, right? But if you look at mobile, mobile is right. Typically, again, these ads are right at the top. So I always call these Google Ads as a more short-term vehicle because you're buying your way in. You're renting a space from Google. Okay. And how these ads work is pay-per-click ads. And I really always really guide home care agencies is not to be greedy because they always want to do a large, right? They just want to conquer the world. But I would say start with zip codes, radiuses where you really, right, want to gain more market share. Or if you're doing very well in your immediate area, then invest more on Google Ads in other areas where you don't have market share yet. Okay. So overall, Google Ads, this is the only instance I'll still elaborate is if you're more established, I would think of this more as, right, just protecting your turf. And if you're trying to grow, you can just buy your way in here then. Again, and I would say just Google your own, type in home care near me. If you're in Phoenix, for example, type in Phoenix home care. Really study who in your immediate area are running these ads, right? I will say about 2 years ago, just even 2 years ago, there's not that many folks doing Google ads. And really is, there's more and more home care agencies, whether franchisees or right independents, are all running ads these days. And unfortunately, really driving up the cost. But that's just right. So if you're thinking, hey, you can get by with 20 bucks a day, $20 a day, unfortunately, going back to this latest insights, right? If you look at Google Ads, it's about 820 to get one client. So if you're spending only 600 bucks a month, unfortunately, that does not go far, right? So that's Google Ads, but I want to really hone in on my favorite section, which is free. Sorry for flipping through this. Is you got to make sure you show up in this local industry. We call this the local three pack because there's only three recommended businesses by Google. And of course, Google is not calling, right, you guys and interview you to figure out, right, who is better. If Google is calling you, first of all, just hang up. These are all spam phone calls. It's not Google doesn't love you. It just they're not gonna be calling you. It's just there's no time for them to be calling each agency. So it's really heavily weighted on three things that Google looks at. There's obviously hundreds and thousands of signals Google looks at, but it's really coming down to three primary signals. First signal that Google looks at is each one of you has a Google business profile. And I just call it your Google listing, right? Formal name for this is GBP, Google Business Profile. So this three-pack ranking heavily weights on your Google Business page, Google Business Profile. So first thing here is you got to make sure your Google Business Profile is up to date, not just claiming it. These days, what Google wants is you get to add in products and services onto your Google Business Profile. This is relatively new. So if you just fill in your name, address, phone number, obviously that's just a basic Google listing, it's very hard for Google to know exactly what do you do. I know it's on your website, but the more heavily ranked is based on your Google business profile. If on your Google business profile, it doesn't list out who you are, because you get to put in the About Us section, who you are, what you do, how you're different. You don't list out the products and services. You don't have photos on there, you lose. So this is what Google's ultimately trying to do. It's what's best for the ultimate consumers. Is if I can if I saw this listing, I open expand it and has all the information on here, I just call. Again, Google is not purposely trying to bypass your website, but it's better for a consumer if I have everything in here that I can trust you a lot, and I'm just gonna call. Okay. So one homework for you guys is please log into your Google Business profile and update it. Okay, and Nick, I can send you a short video on how they can log into the Google Business profile and how to update it. Then I'll make sure to send that to you then. You
Yeah,
can
because
just
that's so many people do not even know how to access it or where to access it and how
yeah,
to find it. Yeah,
yeah,
that'd be
yeah.
great.
It's so easy though, but unfortunately, this is the primary signal Google looks at first. Second signal shouldn't be a surprise to any of us. The more reviews, more Google trust you, right? And so just keep in mind, I'll come back to reviews. You just got to get more reviews. Okay. And I'll talk a little more later on how to get more reviews, give little ideas on that aspect then. Third signal is a very, very strange signal that Google looks at. And in the industry, we call this citations. So let me explain this a little bit more. Back in 2009, 2010, plumbers and locksmiths, I purposely use them as examples, they try to game the system. What they end up doing is they got a bunch of fake addresses. They're like, okay, since they generally serve multiple cities nearby, they go out. Hey, let me try to game the system. Let me get a fake address, PO box here, our friend's address here. Let me get a mailbox, etc., in this other city. That it actually worked back then. But Google's like, you don't physically operate out of that address. That's against our terms and conditions. So what, in order for Google to know whether this is a real address or not, because some businesses, they generally work from their home. Some year one, right, I just call it year one startups, home care agencies, they generally work from their home. They might use a PO box, and that's fine. But in order for Google to know whether it is real address or not, what I end up doing is cross-reference with other major directories out there in search engines. If you're listed on Facebook, Bing, Apple Maps, right, these large search engines and directories, the more likely Google trusts you. That's why it's called citation, just citing, right, that indeed I operate out of this address. So there's a free scanner out there. You just go on moz.com/local and you just type in your business name, address, and phone number. It'll produce one of these reports to let you know where you appeared, where you haven't appeared, and whether information is consistent. And name, address, and phone number. It's very simple. It's nap, right? Like taking a nap. It's your name, address, and phone number. And this again, now the confusion is name, address, phone number is phone number where some franchisees they use tracking numbers because corporate will put tracking number on their website and also put tracking number on their Google business profile. But when you run this report, Google gets confused. What is a real phone number? So again, it's totally legal to use tracking numbers. But if you're using tracking numbers, your primary phone number on Google can be set to that tracking number. But you also got to put your actual real phone number as a secondary phone number. So Google knows, hey, indeed, this is really right. This is a tracking number. This is my real phone number here. So it's not getting confused. Right? So again, three primary signals. Again, make sure your Google Business profile is up to date. You got to get more reviews. Third is you got to make sure you're getting more directories to cite that indeed you operate out of this location. Right. Finally, is should you or should you not invest in SEO, right? Search engine optimization. These days, it does take at least 9 to 12 months to do SEO. The reason being is whoever's highly ranked on first page of Google, and typically it's going to be more directories. Your caring.com, a place for mom, yelp.com, they've been optimizing a lot already. They always show up highly already. That means you have to really spend a lot of time and energy to, to make sure that Google trusts you even more beyond these directories. Thus, these days, realistically, it does take 9 to 12 months plus, right? Whoever is telling you they can get you ranked right away, I will walk away. What they're using is typically called black hat strategies. They're basically trying to, right, scam or spam Google search engine results. But Google's not stupid, right? They have like literally thousands of PhDs that's working with Google. They always refresh an algorithm to make sure to, right, whoever's kind of hacking their system, they're gonna penalize you. So just keep in mind, SEO is really long term. I'm not saying don't do it. We do SEO, right? But again, you got to be really expecting what SEO could do for you. It really is long term play. Don't think, hey, I already done SEO for 3 months. I'm not ranked right at the top. Of course, you won't be because you're still on second page. So you move up to top of second page, then maybe bottom first page, slow moving up though. Right. So again, really talking about now, sorry for this. This is overall strategy. I'm thinking about Google. So sometimes it makes sense, just buy your way in. Just buy your way in. But buying your way in also means you got to make sure website, your reviews, the whole conversion journey is all ironed out, or else you are just going to be wasting money, right? I can buy traffic, anybody can buy traffic, but if that whole journey is not plumbed up well, you're wasting money. Okay. Local search is really something I really think all of you should focus on it. You got to at least, whenever somebody type in home care near me, at least there's no reason why you, right, you shouldn't be ranked in here though. This is still free, right? And but even this typically takes about 6 months plus for you to get ranked in here. It's not overnight success. And finally, is SEO is really long term, 9 to 12 months then. But if you do get ranked in here, options are underway for you to generate traffic. Okay. But all these is ultimately send traffic to your website, right? So if we talk about your website, this really is if what a lot of home care agencies, they typically have beautiful looking websites. That's a better way to say it. Beautiful looking websites, but does not convert. You got to have good balance of the two. So let me kind of go over a quick checklist with you. It's a very, very quick checklist. First is you got to make sure whenever somebody comes to your website, there's a very, very clear call to action. What do you want them to do? Right? Especially on mobile, I keep on saying mobile these days, about 2/3 of traffic starts with this tiny little device. And it's very, very frustrating when they're on your website, they cannot even find your phone number. They have to open up the menu bar, go to contact us page. Maybe the form is the first thing they see, and finally they see a phone number. So the better way to do this is make sure your phone number somehow it's frozen, right? As they're swiping, it's always there, reminding them what to do. Okay? So that's the first thing is if I were you, really out of your website, right? Especially sometimes you'll see the phone number up here, but as they started swiping, the phone number disappears. Okay? So that's first easy win over here. Second, of course, is you got to make sure your website is mobile friendly. These days, how I look at mobile friendliness is by now, I think everyone's website is 2025. Most likely everyone's website is mobile friendly. However, it doesn't mean it's high converting. So one homework for you guys again is really go on your own website for this tiny little device and really pretend you are a family. Really just swipe around, see how hard it is to find things. And Google also provided a tool called Page Speed Insights. Simply just Google Page Speed Insights. All you have to do is type in your your domain name, and Google will give you a few things. First of all, is did you pass or did you fail something called Core Web Vitals? This is what Google looks at. Is at least you got to make sure it's a pass. That just tells Google whether your website overall is it right worthy of Google coming back and index your website. At the same time, Google also gave you four circles here. How good is the performance of your mobile website or desktop? Accessibility, best practices in SEO. This score, just keep in mind, performance is how fast does your website load. If it loads slow, most likely people just bounce off. Okay. But again, this is something very easily just Google Page Speed Insights is Google's own tool, right? It's pretty darn accurate. It's not a fake tool. It'll give you a really good assessment as to how good is your website. Then I always use this example just for fun of purposely a example from another vertical. You got to make sure whenever somebody comes to your website, really in the back of their mind is they're trying to figure out how are you different? Why should I call you? There's so many uh, home care agencies out there. Which one should I call? So they typically that's why they hop from one website to the next one, just trying to do a little homework. How are you different? So you might as well, and I can bet you, if I call you today over the phone, you already explain how are you different. But those gotta be on your website, right? So really, if I use this example right away, it's very clear how is this window and door company different, right? Next, of course, you gotta back it up. You gotta have social proof. Whether you stream in reviews, if your website does not have capability to stream in reviews, there's so many widgets out there that will be able to stream in all the possible reviews you have out there these days. And right, if you don't have that many, for some agencies like your startup or you don't have any reviews on Google yet, go old school. Just go old school, right? Testimonials, type it out. That's still better than nothing, right? Then videos is where, right, Nick, you can teach us, right? But again, videos at the end of the day really does matter. And I really look at it as that trust factor, right? Again, you can have the best images, text, but without videos, it just doesn't convert as well. And independently talking, without even talking to Nick, we've done a lot of split testing. Videos without videos, hands down, the ones with videos convert much more.
Yeah,
Right.
and
And
I
Nick,
think
do you want to touch on this?
yeah, I think the biggest thing too, and I always have to address this, is like it's not just video, but it's videos of your company that is going to create that trust. And so sometimes people get confused about this idea of like video as a whole. Like, oh, so I can just create this like AI video. And it's like, no, it's not going to work. Or if you have some actor or some, like stock content, just having, or like those, animation videos, like that's not what's going to drive the needle. The whole idea is creating trust, authority, credibility. Hey, I'm the owner of this business. We're a wholesome family, or like, we're a real human, not a logo. That's
Mhm.
what creates that differentiation.
Right. Well, and lastly is really please audit about us page. This is not a good example, by the way. I purposely just do this one as an example here. If somebody actually ended up on your about us page, if you really think about it, they typically land on a homepage, they go on the services pages. If you really do go on your about us page, you're really again trying to figure out who you are, how you're different, right? They want to know a lot more about you. And I think on a lot of websites, doesn't matter what industry, there's stock photo, right? And obviously, again, you gotta have videos on your ideally also this about us page, but you also got to have some right photos on there. Not stock photos. Could be a group photo as well, but people just want to get to know you before they call you.
This is one of my biggest pet peeves. I see it all the time because every time I
Yeah.
jump on a call with someone, I always check out their website. And so I
Mhm.
go to their about page to see what they have. And it's the same
Yeah.
thing, right? It's like there's nothing about the actual agency. Like the about us is
Yeah.
like talking about home care or something. Like that's what I
Yeah.
see so
Yeah.
often. It's not actually the individuals. And this is such a great opportunity for you to not only showcase you, but your team members as well and have them have their presence. And so when someone calls you, they have this whole they can see the people that they're talking to because you have an updated, staff, and it's really easy to get good photos from you.
Right.
Just have a friend post on Facebook, hey, we're looking for a photographer. You can find anybody. You can use your iPhone if you want. Like, just have a nice clean background and some good lighting, and you're good to go. Take some photos. You can use them for the website. You can use them for social media, but we've got to get real, live, real human photos.
Right. Good. Then next journey is right. I seriously doubt very little people are not Googling you, looking at your reviews because they're trying to invite you into their home. I seriously doubt that they're not just gonna be checking out reviews unless you're not technical. But again, even my mom knows how to look up reviews these days. So the reviews, just jokingly, they really guide and really help you, right, move that needle further to have them call you. So one homework again for you, please. Like I'm giving a lot of homework. Please Google your own brand name. Really just Google your own brand name. That's what families see, right? This is more also on referral sources. Even that is coming from referral source, they're gonna Google your brand name. They're not purposely checking out your reviews. They're trying to look up your website or just call you to look at your phone number. But what they see these days is it's going to either help you or hurt you. What Google does is it aggregates a bunch of reviews sources out there, whether you love it or not, right? Google reviews obviously is there. There's no way to hide. Plus, your uh, caring.com, care.com, yelp.com, all those reviews show up. And again, that's why Google your own brand name, you will know what shows up in your area. Typically, I'll say typically it's going to be Google, Facebook, Yelp reviews. Again, whether you love Yelp or not, even Yelp reviews do show up highly on a Google search, right? So you got to be monitoring and drive reviews. So I'll talk a little more to give you a few ideas on how to drive reviews. But before that, this is what home care agencies reach out. They get negative reviews. And what can they do? So let me kind of go over the framework with you. It's actually very simple. Step zero is probably the most critical. Is please, again, I know you poured your heart out to help that family. And if you don't, if you, I can guarantee you're gonna regret if you respond right away. So I really advise you to go grab drink of water or just come back later once you're a little bit more cooled. But step one is obviously very, very critical. There's a reason why they left that 1 star, 2 star review is they want to get your attention, right? So with that in mind is really the whole strategy is to take it from online to offline. That means call them right away. I would really, if I were you, I would call them and try to figure out why they're not happy. And typically what you will find is just miscommunication. Or you really felt short and really just want to make sure, right, what can you do to make sure they're happy and win them over again? And I've seen this all the time is typically if we're able to address this offline, the family they will go back either move that 1 star to a 5 star or they take down that negative review altogether. And seriously, this happens all the time, right? But what if, I know what's you're thinking, what if, right? It's totally unreasonable. Here and there, we cannot make everybody happy. That's just reality. So, or it's a fake review, right? or it's a disgruntled employee that left you a negative review, then that's where step two come into play, is you got to leave a public response. And let's use that roofing company as an example again. If that roofing company overall has right bunch of 5 stars, but you and I actually would read the 1 star reviews very, very carefully to see what fell short. But if that roofing company do not come out and really respond to that comment, that negative comment, you and I would think that's real. So if you have negative review out there, you got to make sure you're responding to those publicly. But the key here is not to start a war. I've seen home care agencies defending themselves and attacking that family. And what's even worse is now you see threads back and forth between the family and the home care agency. And that cannot be taken down. It's out there forever. So please take the high road, all right? And really, again, you still want to defend, not defend, but you want to tell the real story. It is what we did, and we called it, right, the family, it is what we did about this. Because sometimes they even might forget to go back and move up to 5 star. But at the end of the day, all these portals, whether it's Google, Yelp, right, they all allow you to flag it, to defend yourself. So once you hit that little 3 dots and there's a flag, you flag it. There's drop down to flag, okay, what happened, right? But I can guarantee you, if you just go skip these processes to directly hit the flag, they will not take it down. Google or Yelp, for example, will always err on the side protecting the consumer first. Unless you gone through this and you're just documenting the process. You're actually documenting, indeed, I reach out to family, right? Yelp is a little more complicated. It allows you to send direct messages, private messages back and forth between the family and you. You're just documenting, hey, I actually reach out to this family, right? And more likely, Yelp will take it down or Facebook will take it down. So again, really, please follow this process, and more likely, it's going to be taken down. But oddly, we don't trust 5 star businesses anymore. We just don't. There's no way whenever it's any consumer, if all reviews are 5 star, we don't tend to trust it. We tend to trust those at 4.6, 4.7, 4.8, right? Those are businesses that we typically do trust. That means you cannot make her happy. You just got to get more reviews. So this typically, what you might want to do is you just got to ask, guys. You just got to ask. It's not like restaurants, organically, people just leave reviews. This is where you just got to ask. So asking really is critical. And this is what I'm seeing a few things. First of all, folks give up way too fast. They're like asking, they're not leaving reviews. And typically the stats is only 1 out of 10 will leave you a review, even if you do ask. So this were a couple of framework here. I would suggest you to actually text the families with a link to leave a review on Google. Typically, we check our messages more than just simple emails. I'm not saying don't do emails, right, or call, but sending a text, they see it, they tap it, and leave you a review. You're gonna get more odds of them leaving you positive reviews. And also, I would definitely, if it were me, again, I'm just thinking if it were me, I would call first after, right? Maybe after that first service or second service. As owner or office manager should be calling, just survey, are they happy or not? If they're happy, then you will text them or tell them, hey, I'm gonna text you a link. Can you please leave us a feedback? I always say it's a feedback, not a review. Really appreciate you leave us a feedback. And you know they're happy, right? So or I've seen some other home care agencies, they run contests. The caregiver will be asking for reviews, and it will let the families know, hey, we're running a contest. If you leave us a review, mention my name, I get a little bit award or a little bit bonus right at the end as a contest. And that's fine. You're just encouraging families to leave reviews. And if you've done a great service, if that caregiver done a great, outstanding service, the families will leave a review. Same thing, text, right? The caregiver will text the family right away in front of them and have them hold them accountable to leave a review. Okay.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to add to that too
Yeah.
is how can we, and you touched on parts of this, is like, how
Yeah.
can we make it as easy as possible, right? So
Mm,
texting it to them makes it easy.
yeah.
What I've seen too, I've seen people put the
Mm,
reviews on like the back of name badges of their caregivers, but just like,
love it.
again, QR codes or just creating
Love it.
like, I've actually created postcards for some of my clients where they can just use it. So you have
Nice.
this QR code that goes right to it. And then the other thing that you can do, um, is helping them on what they should say. So if you
Nice.
give them some context, and so this is a little secret about how you can get really amazing reviews, which is when it comes to sales, right? And understanding sales psychology is all about transformation. And your services can create transformation. And so if you ask them, hey, what was it like before you started working with us? And what is it like now? Then you get the struggle, the problem. Oh my God, I was struggling. Mom wouldn't get out of bed. She never left. Now she's happier, excited, blah, blah, blah. And so if you ask those two questions before and after, you're going to get really good, amazing reviews if you're doing your job right and they're creating that transformation. And so the easier you make it, right, if you give them some context to go off, that will help you to get more reviews as well.
Agreed. And before I move on, it's always a home care agency will ask, how many reviews do I need? And it's really a outrageously tricky question. And my default answer is there's no exact number of reviews. It really based off on how many reviews do your competitors have. If your competitors only have 10, and that's your first, at least your minimal bar to get to, hey, I need 10. But ideally, you need a wide margin. If you have 10, you have 50, it's no brainer to call you first, right? So really, again, study, but really just check out your competitors, how many reviews they have then.
Yeah, I had a client who was getting a bunch of referrals, leads from Google, and she had 12 reviews.
Mm,
Because again, she's just in a, more rural area. Other people don't have it. But like, yeah, it's based on
mhm.
your area, but just getting more, you can't go wrong. I mean, I think it's good to just, and you can even have checkpoints for your whole team. It's like, hey, if we get 25 reviews, this happens. If we get 50, this happens. If we get 100, this happens. So you can make the whole team caregivers. Because I know some people do competitions against each other, right? But I'm always tend to be more favored and lead towards sometimes like group competitions where
Yeah,
everyone wins. So you can
that's
test and
fun.
try both, both methodologies because I know
Right.
people have done both and they've both worked. But I'm always more on like, hey, as a team, what if we all win? Because then sometimes they'll push other people. Hey, how come you're not getting more Google reviews? Like, come on, let's get it going, right?
Yeah.
And so everyone's kind of pushing each other.
Right. Got And one last thing I want to touch on reviews is a big no-no is where your caregivers cannot leave reviews on Google because they never experience the service. I've seen home care agencies done that, and then those reviews got filtered out by Google, and then wonder why. And that's why, because they never experienced their services before. For those, I would ask the caregivers to leave reviews on Indeed and Glassdoor. And that will help, right, with whether caregivers, right, that's looking for jobs on those network then.
Or get some video testimonials from your caregivers.
That's even better. That's even better. Good. Then I really want to spend a little more time very briefly just up here now. And that's where social media really come into play. And I'm totally in aligned with Nick though. Overall, if you look at social media, really at the end of the day is you cannot just use canned templated content. It just does not work, right? There you can do canned template content. It just doesn't work. They want to know more about you, videos, stuff like that. So Nick, this is where you know more than I do. I'll let you Teach
Yeah,
us.
it's so interesting because so many people ask me, it's like, ROI of social media, right? And how it's being, and it really comes down to how you choose to leverage it and utilize it. And the companies that are doing real well, shout out to Kelsey on here right now. She's crushing it right now, utilizing real people, real photos, and then is seeing it work, right? Is like when you think about how you scroll on social media, like when you see people that you're like, oh, I know this person, and you like it. We're not getting excited over stock content. And we have to remember that you're not competing against home care companies. You're competing against every single account on Facebook. So random posts, ESPN, Oprah, right? Cat videos, you're competing against all of them. And so the only way that I've seen social media work is through real photos of real people, which guess what? It's even easier to do because now you don't need to go to Canva and like put your logo on it and do all this stuff. You can literally just have that photo, use some finesse with ChatGPT that isn't cookie cutter, making it more your own and human, and you can create content so easily, consistently, just by using things that are going on in your life, documenting things, caregivers doing things, onboarding, right? You out marketing, employee birthdays, caregiver events that you're doing, networking events. And some of this goes into your personal brand and business brand, and there's different things, right? Video content that is you, caregiver testimonials that is them, right? These types of things, but it has to be human, real, and you're going to immediately see an increase in reach, people engaging. And then another thing I want to say about this too, you have to actively be growing your channels. You can't
Right.
just like rely on what you have. Like some people have like 12 followers and they're posting and they're spending all this time creating all this content. Like, look, no one's seeing this. You're lucky if two people are seeing this with your 12 followers. Because even when you have 1,000 followers, if you're posting bad content, you're maybe getting 10 people to see it. And
Mhm.
so you have to continue to grow that. And how do we grow that? Through our own personal channels, through our own personal brands. So when you're connecting with people on Facebook, then you're inviting people to follow your page, or LinkedIn, you're connecting with people and then inviting them to follow your page. So now you're getting real followers, real people that know who you are and know your brand, and then you're creating photos of you, so now they're more likely to engage. And so again, it's this human element behind the brand, real people, authenticity, credibility, all that comes from creating the most real and authentic social media content that you possibly can. That's what's going to drive the greatest results. And also, I'll say this too, you don't need to post every single day. I'd
Nope.
rather you just be more strategic. Like if you're concerned, start with once a week. And then if you can get to 2 to 3 times a week, great. But if you're somewhere in that 1 to 3 range, excellent. Just try and remain in that area, focus on quality content over quantity content, and you will do so much better and it won't take you so much time.
Agreed. Good. Thank you, Nick. Yeah. We got about 5 minutes. Let me just summarize and maybe some Q&A. So overall, this is my framework if I were you. Again, referral marketing, definitely hands down, that's the most critical thing you should be focusing on. Don't get lazy, please. That's so critical. But all these other things will help with that referral marketing, which is when they do happen to go on Google now, you want to make sure, right, you're present. Whether it's Google Ads, I always call that just buy your way in. But there's no excuse. You got to make sure you show up in that local third pack. It's free. And organically is really a long-term play, which makes sense. If you right conquer these two, then really invest now later on SEO. But website, you guys all have a website already. That's like so low-hanging fruit. Just like simply dialing your website, most likely you got traffic coming to your website. You could see a good amount of increase in the calls already, and it's got to get more reviews. Then social media, I love it. That's where video come in, content, but again, it has to be personal branding, right? That's a big key, is you got to get your face out there to the community. Right? Any questions? Wow, quiet. Nick, I think you're muted.
This was excellent. Thank you. Again, just it makes me so happy again, the alignment that we have and how this is just so important, right? The little things and understanding, you know, the key things that Welton hit on that I always hit on is like you still have to go out, do your direct referral marketing. You have to get out in the community. This is only a small portion of what we're doing online. And when you're doing it right, it's working together, right? Your direct referral social media, right? Your online marketing, it needs to be working with your direct sales, getting out in the community. That's the number one thing that grows home care businesses. And I get on so many sales calls and I'm like, look, your services aren't for me. You need to go market. Like, and that's what it comes down to. And so, yes, these are important things to know. And you have to be careful. Most of the time, I see when people are like looking into digital marketing companies, it's because they're avoiding marketing. And so, if you're not that person, then I recommend connecting with Welton and talking with him and how you can enhance your direct referral marketing, your direct sales to gain greater results, because that's what it comes down to. Um, Here's a quick question from Kelsey. She said regarding Google reviews, is best practices to stagger reviews or get them all at once?
Interesting. Very, very good question. So I would say just keep going. I'll give a couple examples here. What Google doesn't like is something called bursts in reviews. What that means is that, say, because Google doesn't know, it's not normal, right? Suddenly you get, let's say you have 10 reviews. Suddenly you got under 10 reviews. And Google does not love it because it doesn't know whether you're bribing for reviews. That's a big thing. You've seen companies out there like auto repair shop. Hey, I leave us a review, we'll give you a free oil change, right? Next time you come in. That's totally not right against Google's terms and conditions. So when Google sees burst in reviews, more likely those reviews will be filtered out. So I would say, but again, most of you don't have to worry if you're ongoing asking for reviews. That's the whole thing. It becomes a habit, right? Don't do burst as much then, please.
Excellent. Yeah, like this, and it's one of those things too, and sometimes it's difficult, I think, in business that you have so many things that you're trying to do consistently. And so it's hard. And I imagine this happens often where people do bursts because they're like, somebody's telling me I need more Google reviews, and then they try and go and get a bunch, and then they forget about it, and then they try and make it a priority later on. And so, like, these are important things that maybe you have a set of things in your weekly meetings that like, hey, these are the consistent reminders that we need to have, and Google reviews should be one of them. And the reason why I always push Google reviews is because of that one client I had that had 12 reviews. It's like you can have so little and still do well. And so like for those of you that are more on a, and she was a newer agency, she didn't have a lot of ad spend, so she wasn't spending anything on like SEO or anything like that and was seeing results from it. And so like Google reviews to me is like the number one best thing that you can do to increase your SEO just from without having to compete, right? And Welton had hit on it. Like it is a pay to play world, and so are all these platforms. Facebook. That's why I say to never post links on your Facebook page because they make money through ads and keeping you on the platform. If you so these are important elements. So thank you so much, Welton. I want to be mindful of everyone's time here. If you have questions, be sure to reach out to Welton. Connect with him on LinkedIn. He's always creating great content. Follow Senior Care Max. They're awesome. Thank you so much. Lastly, I hope to see you guys in San Diego, September 24th to 26th. Welton's going to be there. It's going to be an amazing Home Care Champions experience. We hope to see you there. Take care. Talk to you soon. Thank you, Welton.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye bye.